It is time to do our second Stop and Jot for Module 8. Don't forget to grab your Module 8 handout. Wow, these last 2 lessons were full of great information. Let's take a minute so you can regurgitate what you learned. The first major topic discussed since our last Stop and Jot was ways to help students determine the meaning of words in their reading. We addressed 3 word learning strategies: contextual analysis, morphological analysis, and resources. Contextual analysis involves breaking down or searching for clues to aid in determining word meaning. In other words, using context clues. The clues can be very helpful sometimes, but other times the author isn't as concerned with the understanding of every word. So we need to make students aware of 4 types of natural context clues. It isn't important that they know the names of these types of clues, but they do need to be aware that authors leave different types or levels of clues. There is misdirective, meaning the context may actually point the reader to an incorrect meaning. Another type is non-directive clues that refer to the text not providing any help in determining the meaning of the word. The third type of natural context is referred to as general context. This type helps the reader have a general, but without detail, idea about the word. The fourth type of natural context clue is directive, which guides the reader to the specific, correct meaning of the word. The natural context examples of general and directive are more helpful for students when they are trying to identify the meaning of words in the text. You can help students be more aware of these types of context, while also heightening their awareness of the 4 categories of context clues. Definition is where the author has included the definition of the word right there in the text. Example is where the author provides very specific examples that relate directly to the unknown word. Contrast is when the word is contrasted with something else that might be more familiar to the reader. Cause and effect clues show a relationship between something that occurs in the text. Comparison involves the author comparing the word with something else in the text. And the last category of context clues is illustration, which draws the reader to the illustrations for a deeper look. We want students to decode the word that is on the page, and if they do not know the meaning of the word, to then look for clues, so they can attach meaning to the oral equivalent of the word. Another word learning strategy is morphological analysis, which refers to using word parts to gain meaning. And the last strategy to pull on when searching for word meaning is the use of outside resources, such as the dictionary, internet, or maybe just asking someone. Now let's switch our recap of ways to help students determine meaning of unknown words to things to consider when selecting words to teach. Your curriculum generally provides vocabulary words to teach, but these are usually vocabulary connected to the passage being read. If we are really going to grow students' vocabulary knowledge, we must also include high-impact words in our daily vocabulary instruction. One thing to consider when choosing words is the 3 vocabulary tiers. Tier 1 refers to familiar words that usually do not require instructional attention, usually because students are already familiar with those words. Then there are Tier 2 words, which refer to academic language that has a wide utility and enhances meaning. Students often need these words to be taught directly and in depth in order to move them to their vocabulary bank. Tier 3 words are disciplinary or specialized words, specific to the content where they are found, and should be taught when the content is being studied. Your target for instruction would be Tier 2 and Tier 3 words with emphasis on Tier 2, as these have a broader range of impact. After we explored the tier vocabulary framework, we also touched on a few other guidelines to consider for word selection and questions to ask yourself when choosing words to teach. Essentialness. Is the word crucial to understanding the text that is being read? Repeatability. What is the frequency of occurrence in texts that students will encounter? Usefulness. Will students encounter or use the word in other contexts? Relationship. Is there a connection to other words being studied or recently studied? Conceptual difficulty. Does the word represent or relate to a big idea to be learned? In addition to talking about Tier 1, 2, and 3 words, we also discussed other types of words that need to be included in vocabulary instruction. Sight words are often confused with high-frequency words. Sight words are any words retained in memory and automatically recognized as students read print. In contrast, High-frequency words are words that occur frequently in text. The goal is for students to build up their bank of high-frequency words and internalize the words so that they are also automatically processed without much thought. High-frequency words should become part of a reader's sight word vocabulary. We then quickly looked at Aries' phases of word recognition, but from the viewpoint of the development of sight word memory. This led us to a brief discussion of orthographic mapping, which involves the formation of letter sound connections to bond the spellings, pronunciations, and meanings of specific words in memory. It explains how students can learn to read by sight, to spell words from memory, and to acquire vocabulary words rapidly from print. The last big idea covered related to how we can increase students' word consciousness and word knowledge by heightening their understanding of morphology, and how it should also be a consideration when trying to determine the words to teach via direct instruction. It is the study of the smallest meaningful unit of language and helps us understand how the units can be put together to form words. We want students to recognize the parts or chunks of words and, more importantly, to know what that part or chunk might mean. A spin-off of that big idea is morphemic analysis, which is the process of identifying the morphemes within a word. These parts or morphemes carry meaning, and there are two types of morphemes, free and bound. Free morphemes are parts that can stand alone, such as port. It has meaning on its own. In contrast, bound morphemes are parts that cannot stand alone. The part has to be attached to another part to make a word such as re or miss. Morphemic analysis is just one more strategy students can learn to decode words, as well as to determine word meaning. This recap reviewed a plethora of information, so I hope you captured the big ideas and will remember them when helping students determine the meaning of an unknown word, and when trying to select the just right words for your vocabulary instruction.